Imagine for a second that you're out with your family or your loved ones, floating through the sky in a hot air balloon. You're just drifting along, enjoying the view, when suddenly something happens that you never saw coming in your wildest dreams. The balloon rips open right there in midair. Suddenly, you're plunging toward the ground from thousands of feet up. And to make matters worse, there's someone inside that balloon with you who actually wants you dead. What do? Well, that is exactly the situation a couple named Jack and Amy found themselves in. So, let's dive into this thrilling story and see how it all plays out. The story kicks off at a company where we see the owner, Jack, signing off on a stack of layoff agreements. The company isn't doing so hot lately, so he's made the tough call to let go of a significant number of employees. The other partners are right there with him, and everyone is on board with the decision. But just then, an employee named James walks in. James is right on the verge of retirement and has poured his entire life into this company. Now, out of nowhere, Jack is kicking him to the curb. James tries to fight it and tells Jack, "Jack, you can't do this. Do you have any idea how hard I worked to get this company where it is today? You can't just throw me out like this. Look, cut my pay if you have to, but please don't fire me." But Jack doesn't really listen and just says, "Look, James, try to understand. My hands are tied here. There's nothing I can do." Hearing this, James suddenly snaps and pulls a gun on Jack. Jack is absolutely terrified and pleads with him saying, "James, man, don't do this. I have a wife and she just had a miscarriage. She hasn't even processed the grief yet. If something happens to me, she'll end up taking her own life too." After hearing that, James doesn't say another word to Jack. Instead, in a moment of total despair, he turns the gun on himself and commits suicide right there because he felt like he had nothing left to live for. This tragic event leaves Jack completely rattled. He starts feeling incredibly guilty. He immediately calls his wife Amy and tells her, "Amy, I'm finishing up my business trip and coming home tomorrow. Let's go on a trip, just the two of us, and spend some real time together." Amy is thrilled to hear this. In reality, when James had that gun pointed at him, Jack was paralyzed with the fear of dying. That near-death experience is what's driving him to want to be with his wife. Later that night, Jack goes to a club to clear his head, but he can't stop replaying the morning's tragedy over and over in his mind. While he's there, he notices a girl named Julia getting into a heated argument with the bartender over some drinks. Jack steps in and tells the bartender, "Give the girl a drink on me. I'll cover the tab. Just please, let's not have a scene here." Hearing this, Julia comes over, sits next to Jack, and thanks him, saying, "You seem like a really good guy. What are you doing here all by yourself?" Julia is clearly trying to hit on him because she can tell Jack has money. As she starts flirting, Jack shuts it down pretty quickly. He tells her straight up, "I see what you're trying to do, but my wife is my everything. I could never cheat on her. I hope you understand what kind of man I am." The next day, Jack heads toward a hotel to meet up with Amy, but on the way, Julia starts blowing up his phone with messages. At first, Jack doesn't recognize the number, but then Julia texts, "Hey, we met at the bar last night. Did you forget already? You talk so much about how much you love Amy. Now, imagine how that poor woman would feel if she found out about us. If you want me to keep my mouth shut and not tell your wife anything, you're gonna have to pay me 5 million euros. Jack is stunned because he didn't do anything wrong with Julia, yet here he is in deep trouble. He wonders why she's blackmailing him after everything he said. He texts her back saying, "My lawyers will deal with people like you," and then he stops responding. He decides not to tell Amy anything because he doesn't want to cause unnecessary drama, especially since she's already struggling with depression. Eventually, they get to the hotel. After spending some time together, Jack tries to get close to Amy that night, but she pulls away. She just hasn't been able to move past the grief of the miscarriage yet. Jack understands her headspace and doesn't push it. The next morning, Jack and Amy head out for a hot air balloon ride because it was something Amy always loved. Once they get there, they meet David, an experienced pilot who's running the show. David lets them know there's one more passenger joining them, so the four of them will be heading up together. A few minutes later, the third passenger shows up, and Jack's heart just drops. It's Julia. Julia hops into the balloon, and since Amy has no idea who she is, Julia plays it cool, but starts throwing shade. She tells them, "I know you two. You guys are pretty famous, right?" She starts low-key threatening Jack, trying to scare him into paying her off before she spills everything to Amy. Jack tries his best to just ignore her. As the balloon starts drifting higher, Amy and David are having a great time, but Jack is a total mess. Julia keeps leaning on him, whispering that he can't run from this and he's gonna get caught. Once they're high up in the clouds, Julia starts chatting with Amy and starts dropping details about Amy's private life. It turns out, the night before, a drunk Jack had blabbed everything to Julia, from their relationship struggles to Amy's miscarriage. Amy is completely blindsided, wondering how this random girl knows so much about her life. Julia keeps pressing Jack's buttons, hovering around Amy just to make him squirm so he'll cough up the cash. Jack tries to pull Amy away to look at the view, but Amy's starting to get suspicious. She wonders why Jack's vibe changed the second Julia showed up, but she keeps it to herself for a moment. A bit later, Amy asks Julia to take a picture of them. Julia agrees, takes the photo, and hands the phone back. Then, Julia hands her own phone to Jack and asks him to take a snap of her and David. When Jack looks at the screen, he sees a text message: "Pay up or regret it for the rest of your life." Jack ignores it, thinking there's no way he's just handing over that kind of money. This sets Julia off. She tells him, "Look, Jack, settle this now or things are gonna get ugly." At this point, Amy's had enough and asks, "What trouble? What is going on between you two? How do you even know each other?" Jack tries to play it off, saying, "Look, this girl is crazy. She was making a scene at the club last night over some drinks, so I bought her one. Ever since then, she's been following me, making up lies to blackmail me. Don't listen to a word she says." This makes Amy go off on Julia, telling her how pathetic she is for trying something like this. But Julia fires back, screaming, "I'm not the one who should be ashamed. Jack should. He didn't just buy me a drink last night. We hooked up. If you don't believe me, he's got a birthmark on his chest that you can't see unless his shirt is off. I've seen it." Amy is absolutely crushed because she knows that birthmark is real. Jack tries to do damage control, saying, "Amy, she's lying. There are plenty of photos of us on social media, some with my shirt off. She must have seen it there. You know how low people will go for money." Julia loses it at this point. She grabs a knife from David's gear and starts threatening Jack. David and Jack try to jump her to get the knife away, and in the middle of the struggle, a gas cylinder starts leaking right onto Julia. The burner ignites the gas, and suddenly, Julia is engulfed in flames. They all scramble to put the fire out with some clothes, and after a desperate struggle, they manage to kill the flames, but Julia is severely burned and screaming in pain. But the nightmare isn't over. The burner suddenly dies. With the heat gone and the chaos unfolding, the balloon starts losing control and soaring even higher. Within minutes, they reach an altitude where you'd normally only see commercial airplanes. As the balloon keeps climbing, the air pressure starts dropping fast, and everyone begins struggling to breathe. It's a nightmare. Getting the balloon back down wasn't going to be easy because there's a small vent at the top, controlled by a rope. If you can open that vent, the hot air escapes and the balloon starts to descend. But during the struggle with Julia, the release cord snapped. Now, the only way to get down is for someone to literally climb up and pull that rope manually. David was the only one with any experience doing something like that, so he puts his life on the line and starts climbing up the rigging. He almost had the rope in his hand too, but right then, Julia, who's badly burned and has completely lost it, stumbles to her feet. She's filled with pure rage. She doesn't want anyone to make it out of this alive since she's already halfway to the grave herself. In a blind quest for revenge, she gives poor David a massive shove, sending him flying out of the basket. David falls thousands of feet to his death. Jack and Amy are absolutely petrified. They're like, "Is this girl insane? She's gonna kill us both." By now, the balloon is so high that the lack of oxygen makes all three of them start to black out. Jack looks down, sees how high they are, and passes out from sheer terror. Julia is unconscious too. Only Amy manages to dig deep, find some courage, and stay awake. She forces herself not to look down. With incredible guts, she copies David and climbs up the ropes to grab that release cord. She finally gets her hands on it, but the thin air makes her head spin again. She almost slips and falls, but at the last second, she catches herself. She grabs the rope tight, ties it to a piece of cloth, and secures it to the basket. Amy pulls it off. The balloon finally starts to drift back down. As the oxygen levels return to normal, Jack wakes up. Without missing a beat, he immediately grabs some fabric and ties Julia's hands, feet, and mouth shut. Amy is confused and asks, "Jack, why are you tying her up like that?" Jack just says, "This girl is dangerous, Amy. It's not safe to leave her loose." But Amy still has a nagging feeling that Julia might be telling the truth. She tells Jack, "Show me that social media post you mentioned, the one with the shirtless picture." Jack tells her he doesn't have a signal, but he's got the photo in his gallery. He pulls up a picture where his birthmark is clearly visible. Seeing this, Amy finally breathes a sigh of relief and says, "Maybe you're right. I'm sorry I doubted you." Jack plays it up, saying, "That's what I've been trying to tell you. You let this greedy girl get inside your head." They're moving along, but suddenly a massive mountain appears right in their path. If they hit that mountain, the balloon is going to be shredded. To make things worse, the burner is dead, so they can't even change direction. Desperate, Jack and Amy start tossing every heavy thing in the basket overboard, trying to make the balloon light enough for the wind to carry them over. But even after throwing out all the cylinders, it's not enough. Jack looks at Julia and says, "I'm throwing her over. That'll lighten the load." Amy immediately stops him. A second later, the balloon slams hard into the side of the mountain. It rips a huge hole in the fabric, but they somehow manage to clear the peak. It's a miracle they're still alive. A little later, Amy removes the cloth from Julia's mouth to give her some water since she'd been lying there for a long time and was clearly parched. But the second the cloth is off, Julia starts screaming at Jack again, calling him a liar. Amy shuts them both down, saying, "Both of you, be quiet. We're flying through clouds right now. We need to focus on surviving. It's freezing inside the clouds and they can't see a thing." Using the cover of the fog, Julia manages to sneakily untie her hands without Jack noticing. Jack eventually asks her, "Why me? There were plenty of other millionaires at that club. You could have scammed any of them. I actually tried to help you by buying you a drink, and this is how you repay me? What do you even want?" Julia looks at him with pure hatred and says, "You killed my father. His name was James." Hearing those words, Jack just freezes. Jack realizes that this girl is actually the daughter of James, the same man who took his own life right in front of his office. Jack tries to defend himself, saying, "Julia, I didn't kill your father. He committed suicide. How is that my fault?" He then turns to Amy and says, "See, Amy, I told you about James earlier. This girl is just framing me and trying to shake me down for money as revenge." Amy feels terrible hearing about Julia's father, but she can't get behind her way of trying to extort them. Just as she's about to say something to Julia, the girl suddenly pulls out a knife and lunges at Jack, stabbing him right in the chest. Fortunately for Jack, the knife misses his heart and hits his shoulder instead. Blood starts gushing out of the wound. Seeing this nightmare unfold above the clouds, Amy panics. She reaches out to Julia, pleading with her. "Julia, listen, please don't do this. Give me the knife." Amy tries to calm her down, saying, "Julia, I'll settle everything. You want money, right? I'll give it to you. Just please, give me the knife." Just as Julia is about to hand over the knife, Jack grabs a cylinder and smashes it against Julia's face with everything he's got. The blow is so violent that Julia dies instantly from the head injury. Amy screams, "Jack, what did you do?" "She was literally about to give me the knife. You killed her." Jack fires back, "This girl was dangerous, Amy. She could have seriously hurt you too. I did it to save you." Jack's shoulder is still bleeding out, so Amy quickly grabs whatever cloth she can find and tries to bandage the wound to stop the bleeding. But the danger just keeps coming. The rip in the balloon from the mountain collision has stretched even wider due to the air pressure. The balloon loses its balance and starts swinging wildly as it drops toward the ground. They have to fix that hole somehow, or they're both dead. They keep trying to light the burner, but it just won't catch. Jack tells Amy, "Look, there's only one way. We have to throw Julia's body overboard. She's already gone. It'll lighten the basket at least." But Amy refuses to do it. Finally, after a desperate struggle, the burner ignites, giving them a glimmer of hope. The balloon's descent stabilizes a bit. They toss some extra gear out of the basket just as another massive mountain appears ahead. They desperately try to maneuver the balloon with the wind to clear the peak, and luckily, they narrowly escape another disaster. However, seeing Julia's body in the basket, Amy is still troubled. She can't help but wonder if Jack killed the girl on purpose. She tells him, "Jack, this whole mess wouldn't have even started if you hadn't bought that girl a drink at the club. Why did you have to buy a drink for a total stranger?" Jack snaps at her. "So now it's all my fault? You're still doubting me? Do you even realize what I put up with in this relationship? You're always stuck in your own depression, yet I'm the one carrying everything. And now you're turning around and blaming me?" Amy is about to snap back, but suddenly the section of the basket that was weakened by the fire gives way under her feet. Amy falls straight through and ends up dangling off the side of the basket. She screams for Jack to save her, but for a split second, Jack just stands there, frozen. He doesn't even move to help her at first. After a moment, he finally starts trying to pull her up. Even with blood dripping from his shoulder wound, he manages to grab her hand and haul her back inside. As soon as she's safe, Amy asks, "What happened to you? If you had waited another second, I'd be dead. Why did you just stand there like that?" Jack makes an excuse saying, "I was just terrified, Amy. I was in total shock. I didn't know what to do. But as soon as I snapped out of it, I saved you." But Amy's heart is still racing. Looking into Jack's eyes, she saw something else for a fleeting moment. It felt like when she was falling, his first instinct wasn't actually to save her. Jack senses her suspicion and says, "I'm in shock too. My brain isn't working right. I'm doing all of this for you, and you're still misjudging me." Right then, a massive wall of black clouds appears ahead. The balloon gets sucked into the storm, and a violent gust of wind blows out the burner. With the burner out, the balloon is now completely at the mercy of the wind. As they get hit by the storm inside the clouds, that rip in the balloon starts tearing even wider. It gets so bad that it looks like the whole thing could burst at any second. Amy tells Jack, "Jack, we have to patch this hole right now, or none of us are making it out alive." Jack thinks she's losing it and tells her it's impossible to do that in the middle of a storm, but Amy isn't the type to back down. She climbs up the ropes again, holding a piece of cloth, trying to cover the tear. It's a total hellscape up there. High winds, lightning, and pouring rain. Amy tries over and over to grab the edges, but the cloth keeps slipping through her fingers. Just as she's about to give up, luck finally swings her way and she snags it. She quickly ties the cloth to the basket and plugs the hole. Honestly, Amy showed way more guts than Jack here. She single-handedly saved everyone from certain death twice. Finally, they clear the storm and reach an open field. The balloon is drifting down peacefully now, and it looks like they'll land safely in just a few minutes. As they're descending, something starts bugging Amy. She suddenly remembers that Julia knew the exact brand of Jack's socks. You can't see a brand name on socks without taking off your shoes, and Jack definitely didn't walk into that club barefoot. Amy asks him, "Jack, how did Julia know what brand of socks you were wearing?" Jack gets a little rattled and stammers, "Since when do you have to take off your shoes to see a brand? If your pants slide up a bit, you can see the logo. Sometimes the way we sit makes the socks show. You're being way too paranoid. Why would I ever do anything with a girl like Julia?" But Amy isn't dropping it. She needs the truth. She starts looking for Julia's phone, but Jack finds it first and tosses it overboard before Amy can see. Since she can't find Julia's phone, Amy demands, "Give me your phone. She messaged you and I want to see those texts." Jack hands it over, acting totally chill because he thinks there's no evidence left. But when Amy opens the messages, she finds a video that Jack hadn't even noticed when he first got the text. If he had seen it, he definitely would have deleted it. Amy hits play, and her whole world comes crashing down. The video clearly shows Jack and Julia going to a hotel together after the club and hooking up. It turns out Julia's whole plan was to get revenge for her father, James, and blackmail Jack for money. She recorded the whole thing in secret. In the video, when Julia asks about James, Jack says, "Man, James was a loser. It's a good thing he's gone. Firing him was the best thing I ever did. He was just collecting a paycheck for nothing. He was already a dead man walking, so if he wants to take his own life, what's that got to do with me?" Amy is absolutely petrified after seeing this. When Jack realizes the cat's out of the bag, he shamelessly admits it. "Yeah, it's true, so what? You don't even let me near you with all your depression drama. I'm tired of your daily theatrics, so yeah, I went elsewhere." Amy breaks down in tears, realizing his sympathy was all just an act. She tells him he's a disgusting human being. Jack loses it and screams, "Disgusting? You should be thanking me. I gave you a royal life. You were just some random nursery teacher. I pay my bathroom cleaner more than your monthly salary. I gave you everything and you're blaming me?" Amy is heartbroken. She tells him she made a huge mistake trusting him, and that she's going to show everyone his true face. "I'm sending you to jail for Julia's murder," she says. Terrified of going to prison, Jack tries to shove Amy out of the basket, but during the struggle, Jack slips. He ends up dangling from a rope underneath the basket. He screams, "Amy, please save me! I'm your husband! Don't let me die like this!" But Amy doesn't listen. She pushes Julia's body over the side, right onto Jack. She thinks to herself that even though Julia couldn't kill him while she was alive, maybe her body could finish the job. The weight of the body hits Jack, his grip fails, and both of them plunge thousands of feet to their death. Amy eventually lands the balloon safely on her own. She knows Jack's lawyers would try to frame her, so she sets the balloon on fire and disappears. The world thinks everyone on the balloon died in the accident. Amy starts a new life under a secret identity, because she knows if people found out she was alive, there would be lawsuits and endless questioning. She chooses to stay dead to the world and moves on to live a quiet life.